People, Deluded, I'm back again. Thank you very much for tuning back in. I hope you're all doing well and safe wherever you are, whoever you are. The main thing is health. Now, in relation to Arsenal, this week, in fact, for all football fans, the Premier League is back, people. You know, we've all waited for it. No matter what team you support, you know, your team, when the season goes on, they will show you why you shouldn't have had optimism. But we all have optimism, whether, you know, you're doing Liverpool and City, you're like Arsenal fans just hoping to be back in top four and whatever, you know, teams that have been promoted want to stay in the league. You know, we've all got optimism. The optimism dies slowly as the season goes on, but there's optimism, and I'm going to keep that optimism until I see different. But one thing I want to see is more aggression on the transfer front from Arsenal. Now, sometimes I think silence is golden when your club isn't making any moves, because that be when they're doing the most moves. And you know what, I'll shut up until October, because I don't know what the club's plans are. I don't know what we're doing. I screamed for defensive reinforcements. I personally think I've got that for Arteta to work with. Yeah, I want to see midfielders come in. You know, Sabas has come back on loan, but you know, the cynic will say, you know, he's not a permanent player. That's a second year spent developing a player for Real Madrid. The Partey thing, are we just going to repay the release clause or not? What are you going to put the bands on the table or not? You know, the Coutinho links, as the summer's been going on, has died down slowly. But yeah, since the latest I've seen is that Koeman wants to keep him. But we was also linked with him. Don't get it twisted, Gabriel, technically Saliba, Williams coming to complement the side, I don't mind. Still would like to see Aubameyang's contract renewal done. I had hoped that would be done before the start of the new season, because that's going to be another talking point, and potentially a couple more bodies in. So yeah, man, it's been a slow news week, really and truly. There's not much, really and truly. It's the same recycled rumours. The first one that came of interest is L'Equipe. They said we're interested in Rennes striker Jorginho Rutter. Now, I'm not too sure how valid that claim is. You know, I've seen a very decent amount of him. He's strong, he's quick, he'll work the channels well. He's a striker, he's got good technical ability, he knows how to punish the side. He's definitely a young man with potential. Beyond just having potential and being an 18-year-old, which, you know, that's two boxes for me. You can come sign for our club. You know, you could be a star for the first team of tomorrow, or we can make bands. I don't see the links, because I wouldn't say it's a priority. Now, I want the club, obviously, whether Aubameyang signs a new deal or not, people, to, you know, be looking for the long-term Aubameyang replacement, whether that's an 18-year-old, mid-20-year-old, even 27 or so. You know what I'm saying, people? Because 27 is still quite young as a striker. I want us to be applying that foresight, because the cynic in me would say we're not necessarily learning our lessons. You know, David Luiz, in an ideal world, he'll be phased out when Gabriel and Saliba are ready, but we didn't learn our lesson. Right now, he's first choice centre-half. Did we learn our lesson with Koscielny? Monreal was a low serviceman, and at numerous moments this season we could have done with him, but we was relying on someone on the wrong side of 30. Aubameyang, you know, he's an anomaly because he looks after himself, he's a good goal scorer, but what I'm saying is we need to learn from hindsight and apply better foresight. You know, when David Luiz calls it a day, of course you've got Gabriel and Saliba. We need to do the same for Aubameyang. So if we can get someone with that, I don't mind. It all depends on the fee Rennes want. I know Rennes are pretty open to selling players, but when you've got, you know, these young French players, you're going to want top dollar. I'm not too sure of our plans with that, because, you know, if Balogun leaves, we get our, you know, we've seen anything from 5 to 7 to 10 million pounds. Tyrese John-Jules is likely to go out on loan, who's still a young man, I believe, with a future at this club and what the club believe. You've got Eddie and Nketiah. So if Balogun leaves, we bring a next man in, I'm all on that. And for him, you know, I wouldn't really, you know, if you join Arsenal, you get to train with the first team and travel, that's good. There's actually a legit case for another striker on our bench. But at the same time, if you're going to go somewhere, can you go somewhere where you're going to play first team football from immediately? Maybe the best place to stay is actually Rennes, where they've got a smaller budget, a smaller remit. They will play their young players. Of course, I would like him, but beyond the fact of he's been linked with in a French paper, I'm not too sure. It's not really transfer rumours, people, but Matteo Guendouzi today will captain France's under-21s in the Euro 2021 qualifier against Azerbaijan. And, you know, Guendouzi's been a bit anonymous at Arsenal. It's nice to see him getting certain football, and again, his future needs to be resolved. Again, it's the same old rumour, but RMC, in relation to Guendouzi, have reaffirmed yesterday, Sunday afternoon, that Lyon have rejected a 35 million plus unnamed player in exchange proposal from Arsenal for Aouar. it went on to say, we believe that they are merely referring back to the same verbal proposal made last week and that the player was Matteo Guendouzi. So again, it's the same old stuff. Mark Irwin is saying Ozil will be handed an Arsenal lifeline and may feature against Fulham in the Premier League opener. He went on to say Arteta is resigned to Ozil seeing out the final year of his contract, and he's looking at ways to keep Ozil involved rather than having him pick up wages without contributing to the side. And that was my viewpoint. I mean, I think when you look at Mesut Ozil, you need to remove your agenda. You know, that name, certain people, you know, he's got the mad fanboys, you know, the mad fanboys that will make out he's a complete victim in everything. You've got the people he can do no right, where the middle ground is, you know, he's a good player on his day, but the problem is them on his day stuff in the last 3 years in particular are too far and beyond. I don't care about his salary, but for me, I want salary to match application. You know, if you're the trailblazer of the team and you're doing a Mazda, I don't give a crap how much you earn. I still don't care how much Ozil earns because it's not my piece. Just in terms of wages to what I expect, and I mean, I'm seeing someone on our highest wage bill, you know, in the FA Cup. In the squad at all. Does that mean Arsenal have the luxury and we've got so much depth that we can do things like that, or is it for other reasons? He needs to be moved on. But one thing I don't agree with, and I think it's stupid, I'm sorry, like, Ozil is not a toxic person. Clearly he's not. He's always involved in the squad, in training and things. Beyond, you know, the obvious, he's not toxic, he's not disruptive in training and things like that. So why alienate him to the 23s? You know, it's going to give us more problems. Like you saw with Emre, whether you rate Ozil or not, you remove him, people start asking questions. So, and I'm not saying they'll side with Ozil over Arteta because I think it's a bit different. What I'm saying is we need to play this fairly. Just in terms of what I said, finances, you know, you can send him to the 23s and reserves and say, see out your deal, you know, push him to sort out something in January. I don't care. But at the same token, yeah, we should be using him in our side if he's not going to be moved on. I'm not saying he needs to play week in, week out, but just that option, whether you keep him on the bench and you play him last 20 if we're chasing it, or we're playing teams where, you know, we need to break them down, you can use him. I'm not saying he's amazing, he's going to change stuff. There's been many times Ozil hasn't, but if you've got a tool in your squad and you're paying that much money, you might as well use it. And especially, you know, I want a creative midfielder. When I say creative, I wouldn't mind a number 10, you know, poetry in motion. I wouldn't mind, he's not exactly a 10, but a modern day creative man like Kevin De Bruyne or someone that plays like that. Of course, people. I think that's the angle we need to go for. We need to go for someone that can actually play in a flat midfield three and still be creative. I think that's the modern days. You need to be industrial and clinical. It's not just about how many passes you can do. But at the same token, like I said, Ozil is inconsistent. But I look at the options within that creative midfield role. Yes, you can play a Nelson there, and there's and Saka's even shown he can do a thing there. I've made a video on how I would like to consider using that. But, you know, while I think I could utilise Saka then, he's better than some of them young players that actually play in that role. And there's other things you could do, you know, looking at, you know, you want Saka on the flanks or competing to play on the flanks in an ideal world. You look at the people you'd probably expect, or for me anyways, expect to play that 10 role or do that 10 stuff, looking at it, people. Willian, you know, if I'm Arteta, he plays on the left and right time to time, but I'm really flirting with the idea of Willian playing as a 10. Xhaka, Ceballos and Willian, I think we can't get more creative on paper than that with what we've got, and obviously excluding Ozil. So I'm trying to utilise Willian in other positions, but I'm considering him for the 10 role, people. You've got him. Emil Smith-Rowe is a young man. With that being said, do I know what level of consistency I'm going to get? If I throw him in for 10 games, he might decide the winner, match of the day highlights. The other time, like against Everton, you might have to clip him shortly after half time. Do you get it, people? So while I'd give him game time, he's tried and untested. Joe Willock again, you know, Arteta knows more than me, Emre knows more than me, Lundberg knows more than me. So there's got to be a reason as to, and I think there's a remit at the club to play Joe Willock in that 10 role. And I want to be wrong. Like I said, they know more about football than me. My personal opinion is he plays in the pivot. I think he's better with the game in front of him rather than, you know, his back slightly to it, needs to get in between the lines and break play. I don't think he's got the speed of thought, the technical kind of speed of thought as well, because he's got technical qualities, but I don't think he knows how to sort his feet out quick enough to thrive in that role. But he plays in that role. So you've got Willian, you've got Joe, you've potentially got Emil as well, you've got the tried and tested, you've got Mesut Ozil within that role. So for me, over a 38 game period, including the Europa League, including the cup games, I can't understand not using him in some capacity. That's just my opinion. If you don't believe such, listen, I'm not telling you what to think. Finally, people, on to the final last two rumours. You know, we already know it's recycled. Martinez until is he going to sign a new deal or not? He's contracted until 2022. He's probably a good proposition for clubs in a day and age where you struggle to find value for money. I think he'd present that, especially when you see 20 to 10 million quotes, whether I agree with that or not. Leeds, his countryman Bielsa playing there, managing there, and obviously he's been linked with Villa. Apparently if Arsenal do sell him, our contingency plan is obviously to go for that Brentford keeper. He spent time at Blackburn, you know, he's probably more happy to be the number 2 than Martinez, and he helps with our homegrown. I want Martinez to stay because it's best for us, you know. Him and Leno, 6 months down the line, you know, it's an elephant in the room we'll have to revisit, you know. I think you start off Martinez in goal as number 1, he's deserved it. Obviously, as the season goes on, if the minute, for me, literally the minute, it has to be a thing. It's almost harsh because, you know, if he has 10 good games, 1 clanger, he doesn't deserve to be dropped. But I think that's what we got to do with our keepers. It's your spot to lose. The minute you have an iffy game, you're out of the Premier League team, you know. The keeper that's not playing is going to do up Europa League in the cup competitions, but it's going to take a second before we start playing the minute. So we'll have to review in 6 months. But I think it's cool. We need to keep Martinez. You hear talk of a new deal. You've also seen, you know, apparently Football London is saying a decision in the next coming weeks will be made over his future. Obviously, I believe the Copa America is in Argentina, and he said, I want to be Arsenal's number 1 and Argentina's. He really can't be even though I can't think of an Argentinian keeper better than him. You've got to be playing you've got to play on a regular basis to have a chance playing for your country. I know there's certain players that don't play, but you need to, and he's only going to get that by being, you know, the number 1 for Arsenal and stuff. He might still get called up with Argentina, you know, out of the 3 keepers, but he said he wants to be number 1. To be number 1, you've got to keep playing, and the more he plays, the more he's enhancing his reputation. Like, I'm not going to go as far to say he's had a rapid rise, but, you know, he's been there for a minute, and I won't say the whole footballing world is taking him in, but he's, you know, the whole footballing world, he's got a new bit of credibility now. Do you get it, people? Than he would have before he got a look in the team. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Finally, people, David Ornstein have said Arsenal have delayed making a final decision on Rob Holding in relation to him going out on loan at Newcastle. Are we having cold feet over what Newcastle want to do? Is there other interest from other clubs which he can go on loan at, which, you know, more attractive, I guess? You know, is there permanent offers in the works, or we're hearing wind of permanent offers, so we're saying scrap the loan, let's do this? Is Arteta having a change of thought? You know, he played in the Community Shield. Is he having a change of thought? Like with Eddie, where Eddie was going to go back on loan in January, he said, yo, stay. I don't know. Centre-half is a gazy one. I would want to keep Holding around. I like Holding, but by the same logic, I see reason for him, not just in terms of boosting up his transfer fee if someone wants to get him, but playing games, going on loan. Equally, I would fully understand if Arsenal, having signed him for 2 million, with injuries and stuff considered, and he has had good bouts of form, but he's really not kicked on enough anyways in terms of street smartness. I won't begrudge Arsenal if they see 2 million and say, you know what, bought him for 2 million, let's make a little flip on him, put a sell-on clause. For Holding, I think it's in his best interest to have an honest conversation with Arteta and see where he features, because we've got Gabriel and Saliba. They're going to play ahead of you. At least initially, David Luiz is going to be ahead of you. I personally think Arteta rates Mustafi ahead of you because he got in ahead of you and took advantage when people were injured. We do need about 5 centre-halves, in my opinion, throughout the squad, so there is a case. But Holding's at that age now. He needs to play consistent football and regular football to develop. You know, he's got to look back next year, August, and say, have I really developed as a player? Is that going to happen at Arsenal? You know, if we play a back 3, fair enough, you might get a bly if David Luiz needs a rest or something. But I think Tierney has more of a chance of playing in that back 3 than you. But we'll see what happens with Holding, man. I just want to see what happens with Holding and Martinez in particular, because obviously if we sell them both, it complicates things because of our homegrown ruling and things, and we'll probably have to end up registering the likes of Emil, Saka. You know, these sort of players that, you know, they're under 21, they don't need to be registered, but we have to. Happy belated birthday on the topic of Saka. He's just turned 19 as well. Scary how young he is and what he's done for Arsenal so far. I've got nothing more to add on that front, so I'm going to get out of here. You lot know it's always a pleasure speaking to you lot. DG, I'm out.